Cerebellum means small cerebral. Small cerebral. In the Farsi, we tell mukhche. And you tell mukheikh. Yeah? Mukheikh. Cerebellum means small cerebral because it has two hemispheres similar to the cerebral, and gray matter is located on the cortical part or on the peripheral part, and white matter is located in the central part, similar to the cerebral. And cortex, cerebellar cortex, similar to the cerebral cortex, has many folds, many folds. Each fold is called folium. Each fold is called folium. There are many folia in the cortex of the cerebellum. Read this. Mr. G, in the celebrating the 27th birthday, at the end of the night, he is driving with his friends on the freeway. He is stopped by the police due to high speed and twisting movements. When Mr. G moves towards the police observe that Mr. G is unable to walk in a straight line. He cannot walk in a straight line. Okay? And his speech is slurred. My name is, yeah? When the police ask him to balance on one leg, he is unable to do this. Okay? When police tell him you should balance with one leg, he cannot, unable to do it. Which part of Mr. G's brain is responsible for these problems? Which part? Cerebellum. Because I will tell about cerebellum. Yeah. What test should the police take from him? Yeah. Alcohol test. Because alcohol has oral absorption, and a part of the brain that is related to the equilibrium or balance is the cerebellum. Yeah? Cerebellum has many responsibilities, such as balance and muscle tones, and there are many functions for the cerebellum. The main function of the cerebellum is maintenance of equilibrium or balance. Maintenance of the equilibrium or balance. Okay? And posture and eye movements. Another function of the cerebellum is coordination of half-automatic movements. Half-automatic movements. Okay? Stand up. Come. Please open the door. This function is half automatic, not completely automatic. What's your name?
Asadullah.
Close. Asadullah. When I tell Asadullah, stand up, he thinking about my stimulus. Yeah? And after thinking, he standing up and starting to the walking. Do you thinking about your walking here? No. Walking is half automatic movement. Thank you. Thank you. Walking is half automatic movement. Starting of the walking, in the starting of the walking, you think about your walking. But when you are walking, you don't think about your walking. Driving. Driving is half automatic. Yeah? Adjustment of the muscle tones is another function of the cerebellum. And motor learning, motor skills, okay, fine movements is another function of the cerebellum. Can you tell me one fine movement? Writing, suturing, drawing. Yeah? When you don't have a hand.
Yes, we have. I do this. This.
Thank you. It's good. When you went to the primary school, in the first class, your teacher told you you should write 1 page this, and then 1 page this, and 1 page this. Yeah? And then you should write 1 page this, 1 page this, 1 page this, or this. Yeah? After 1 week, or 1 week, or 10 days, your teacher told you you should write this, or this, or this. Yeah? Curve lines. Why your teacher told you you should write this? When you are writing, for example, cognitive, okay, you are writing motor, there are many curved lines, such as O, such as R, U, N, C. These are curved lines. And you should write at least 270 times these words that you can write now very easily. When I tell you write core, yeah, you can write core. It's not difficult for you because you are writing many times. Yeah? Is it clear? When the surgeon goes to the surgery room, operative room, and makes suture, okay? Based on his or her experience, he can make suture easily. These are fine movements. Okay? Motor movement. For learning the motor movement, you need cerebellum. Is it clear? You need cerebellum. Cerebellum is responsible for cognitive functions. There are many important functions for the cerebellum. Cerebellum is located in the posterior cranial fossa. In the posterior cranial fossa, inferior to the tentorium cerebelli. This transverse or horizontal septum is called tentorium cerebelli. This is the septum from dura mater. Septum from dura mater. That is called tentorium cerebelli. And cerebellum is located in the posterior cranial fossa, inferior to the tentorium cerebelli. Okay? Cerebellum has three surfaces: superior surface, inferior surface, and anterior surface. On the superior surface of the cerebellum, you may see superior surface of two cerebellar hemispheres and superior surface of the superior vermis. A part of the cerebellum between two cerebellar hemispheres is called vermis. It's called vermis. Okay? This is vermis. In the superior surface of the cerebellum, between anterior lobe and posterior lobe of the cerebellum, there is a V shape. There is a V shape sulcus, similar to Persian or Arabian 7. Yeah? V shape, similar to Arabic 7 or Farsi 7. Yeah? This sulcus between anterior lobe and posterior lobe of the cerebellum is called primary fissure. Primary fissure or fissura prima. Primary fissure. In the inferior surface of the cerebellum, inferior vermis is located under a narrow part that is called vallecula. Vallecula means valley. This is vallecula. In the superior surface, superior vermis is at the level of superior surfaces of the cerebellar hemispheres. But in the inferior surface, inferior vermis is located under a vallecula. In the inferior surface of each cerebellar hemisphere, near to the anterior part of this cerebellar hemisphere, on each side there is an oval structure. That this oval structure is called cerebellar tonsil. Cerebellar tonsil. Okay? These are cerebellar tonsils. In the inferior surface of the cerebellar hemisphere, near to the anterior part. Cerebellar tonsil. Anterior surface of the cerebellum is a narrow part. In the anterior part of the cerebellum, there are 3 pairs of cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellar peduncles. Cerebellar peduncles. Superior cerebellar peduncles connect midbrain to the cerebellum. Middle cerebellar peduncles, or the largest one, connect pons to the cerebellum. And inferior cerebellar peduncles connect medulla oblongata to the cerebellum. If you remember, brainstem has 3 parts: medulla oblongata, pons, and midbrain. Each one connects to the cerebellum via 2 cerebellar peduncles. Inferior cerebellar peduncles between cerebellum and medulla oblongata. Middle cerebellar peduncles between pons and cerebellum. And superior cerebellar peduncles between midbrain and cerebellum. Is it clear? Inferior to the cerebellar peduncles on the anterior surface of the cerebellum, there is a part of the inferior vermis here that is called nodule, number 19, nodule. And there are 2 peduncles on each side, and this structure that is called folliculus. Yeah, this structure that is called folliculus. Okay? Nodule from inferior vermis and peduncles and folliculus, these parts together are called folliculonodular lobe. Folliculonodular lobe. These are folliculonodular lobe. You see here, this is anterior lobe, anterior to the primary fissure or fissura prima. This is posterior lobe, and these are cerebellar peduncles, and this blue part is folliculonodular lobe. Folliculonodular lobe. Okay? Folliculonodular lobe is the first part of the cerebellum. Folliculonodular lobe is the first part of the cerebellum in the development of the cerebellum. Okay? This is the first part of the cerebellum that formed in the embryonic period. Is it clear? Yeah? Yes. Folliculonodular lobe has connection with the vestibular nuclei in the floor of the 4th ventricle. Okay? And the main function of folliculonodular lobe is equilibrium, is balance. Okay? The first function of the folliculonodular is the very, very old function of the cerebellum, equilibrium, balance. Is it clear? Yeah? Based on this connection of the folliculonodular lobe with vestibular nuclei, other name of the folliculonodular lobe is vestibulocerebellum. vestibulocerebellum. And based on development of the folliculonodular lobe as a first part of the cerebellum, this part of the cerebellum is called archicerebellum. Archicerebellum. Okay? Folliculonodular lobe has another name. That this is archicerebellum or vestibulocerebellum. Archicerebellum or vestibulocerebellum. The main function of the folliculonodular lobe or archicerebellum or vestibulocerebellum is balance and equilibrium. Is it clear? Anterior lobe of the cerebellum, is called paleocerebellum. Paleocerebellum or old cerebellum. Archi means ancient and paleo means old. Based on connection of the anterior lobe with the spinal cord, another name of the anterior lobe is spinocerebellum. Spinal cerebellum. Paleocerebellum or spinal cerebellum is anterior lobe. Is it clear? Yeah? The main function of the anterior lobe or spinal cerebellum is muscle tonus. Muscle tones. Maintaining of the muscle tones. And posterior lobe is called neocerebellum or new part of the cerebellum. Based on connection of neocerebellum with the pons, another name of the posterior lobe is pontocerebellum. Pontocerebellum. Is it clear? Yeah? This is a sagittal section from the cerebellum, similar to this sagittal section. The sagittal section, similar to this. In this sagittal section, you see there are many folds in the cerebellar cortex. Here is cerebellar cortex, and white matter. White matter in the cerebellum, between folds of the gray matter is similar to the branches of the tree. This appearance is called shajaratul hayat or arbor vitae. Arbor means shajar. Yeah? And vitae means hayat. Shajaratul hayat or arbor vitae. In the Farsi, we tell derakht zendegi. درخت زندگی یا حیات زندگی and شجر درخت. Arbor means شجر. Is it clear? This is appearance of white matter inside of the cerebellum. Just appearance. Is it clear? Okay. In the cortex of the cerebellum, there are 3 layers. In the cortex of the cerebellum, there are 3 layers. Molecular layer, Purkinje cell layer, and granular layer. Okay? Cerebellar cortex has 3 layers. 3 layers. Molecular, Purkinje cell, and granular layers. In the molecular layer, there are 2 types of cells, stellate cells and basket cells. Both of them are inhibitory. Basket cells and stellate cells are inhibitory. Density of neurons in the molecular layer is very, very low. It's very, very low. Middle layer is Purkinje cell layer. Purkinje cells are very large cells, very big cells with 150 micrometer diameter. These are Purkinje cells. That Purkinje cells are very large cells, large pyramidal cells. You see here, these are Purkinje cells. Body or soma of Purkinje cells are located in the line, and between them there is another cell, modified astrocytes, that these cells are called Bergmann's cells. These are Bergmann's cells. Bergmann's cells are modified astrocytes. Is it clear? Purkinje cells have apical dendrites that enter into the molecular layer. There are very branched dendrites, that these dendrites enter into the molecular layer. Yeah? If you remember, I told you in the molecular layer, there are 2 types of cells. Do you remember? Stellate cells and basket cells. Yeah? Here, there are 2 types of cells. Stellate cells and basket cells. Here, stellate cells and basket cells. These are stellate cells, and these cells are, for example, these cells are basket cells. Density of neurons in the molecular layer is very low. Yeah? In the Purkinje cell layer, there are very large cells with 150 micrometer diameter cells that are called Purkinje cells. Dendrites of Purkinje cells enter into the molecular layer. Okay? And axon of these cells go to the white matter and go to the cerebellar nuclei. Between Purkinje cells, there are Bergmann's astrocytes or modified astrocytes that are located between Purkinje cells. In the deeper layer, that is called granular layer, there are two types of cells. In the granular layer, there are two types of cells. Golgi cells Golgi cells are very large cells. And between Golgi cells, there are granular cells. Granular cells are very, very small cells with 3 to 4 micrometer diameter. You see here, density of neurons in the granular layer is very, very high. Based on this high density of neurons, this layer is called granular layer. Is it clear?
Yes.
Purkinje cells are inhibitory. And these Golgi cells are inhibitory. Okay? Basket cells are inhibitory. Stellate cells are inhibitory. Purkinje cells are inhibitory. Golgi cells are inhibitory. Just granular cells are excitatory. These are excitatory. Okay? In the cerebellar cortex, just granular cells are excitatory. All cells are inhibitory. And granular cells are the most small cells in the human body because they have 3 to 4 micrometer diameter. Okay? Purkinje cells have 150 micrometer, and these are 3 micrometer. These are very, very small cells and excitatory cells. Is it clear? If I ask you, in the cerebellar cortex, which cell is excitatory? You answer me, granular cells. In the human body, which cell is the smallest cell? The most smallest cell? Granular cell. And axon of granular cells ascends to the molecular layer, and these fibers of the granular cells are called parallel fibers. Okay? If I ask you, what is the parallel fibers? You answer me, axon of granular cells. Okay? In the molecular layer, I told you there are stellate cells that they have inhibitory neurotransmitters. Basket cells, they are inhibitory. Parallel fibers and Purkinje cell dendrites. Okay? I told you density of neurons in the molecular layer is very low because there are dendrites of the Purkinje cells and parallel fibers. What's the parallel fiber? Axon of granular cell. Axon of granular cell. In the granular layer, there are granular cells and Golgi cells. Granular cells are excitatory and very small cells. Okay, and axon of these cells make parallel fibers. Is it clear? In the cerebellum, there are 4 pairs of nuclei. What is nucleus? What is nucleus? Aggregation or collection of cell body of neurons in the CNS for specific function. Aggregation of cell body of neurons in the CNS for specific function. There are 4 pairs of nuclei in the cerebellum. Fastigial nucleus is related to the folliculonodular lobe or archicerebellum or vestibulocerebellum. Okay? This is related to the vestibulocerebellum or archicerebellum and is related to the equilibrium. Okay? Emboliform nucleus and globus nucleus are related to the paleocerebellum or spinocerebellum, are related to the muscle tonus, muscle tones. And the largest one, dentate nucleus, is related to the neocerebellum or pontocerebellum, is related to the learning fine movements. Learning fine movements. Is it clear? Okay? Afferent fibers that enter into the cerebellum via superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle, or inferior cerebellar peduncle. These fibers make muscifibers. That muscifibers make anastomose, make synapses with the dendrites of granule cells, and axon of granule cells make parallel fibers. Yeah? But there is a tract, that this tract is called olivocerebellar tract. From inferior olivary nucleus in the medulla oblongata, after crossing, these fibers enter into the cerebellum via inferior cerebellar peduncle, and these fibers are called climbing fibers. These fibers ascend to the cerebellar cortex and make synapses with the dendrites of the Purkinje cells directly. These fibers are called climbing fibers. Climbing fibers are related to the olivocerebellar tract. Olivocerebellar tract. Okay? Olivocerebellar tract. Okay, this is corticopontocerebellar tract, that is related to the neocerebellum, is related to the fine movement, learning the fine movements. This is posterior spinocerebellar tract, and here is anterior spinocerebellar tract, that this tracts enter into the cerebellum, posterior spinocerebellum via inferior cerebellar peduncle and anterior spinocerebellar via superior cerebellar peduncle. Posterior spinocerebellar or dorsal spinocerebellar tract doesn't have any crossing. Doesn't have any crossing. But anterior spinocerebellar tract has two crossings. One crossing in the spinal cord and second crossing in the cerebellum. Okay? There are another tracts, afferent tracts, such as olivocerebellar tract. I told you from inferior olivarinoculus, after crossing in the medulla oblongata, these fibers ascend into the inferior cerebellar peduncle and go to the cerebellum. Okay? To the archicerebellum. This is olivocerebellar tract. And olivocerebellar tract has climbing fibers. Climbing fibers. You see here from inferior cerebellar peduncle, there are conocerebellar, reticulocerebellar, vestibulocerebellar, and from superior cerebellar peduncle, raphe-cerebellar, hypothalamus-cerebellar, and rubrocerebellar tracts enter to the cerebellum. From middle cerebellar tract, pontocerebellar fibers enter into the cerebellum. And efferent fibers from fastigial nucleus is cerebello-vestibular tract or fastigio-vestibular tract. And from superior cerebellar peduncle, there is cerebello-rubral and cerebello-thalamic tracts from emboliform globus and dentate nuclei. This is summary of all afferents or efferents of the cerebellum. Okay? This is superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle, and inferior cerebellar peduncle. You may see all tracts that enter into the cerebellum or goes out of the cerebellum. Okay, archicerebellum is vestibulocerebellum, palocerebellum is spinocerebellum, and neocerebellum is pontocerebellum. Lesion of archicerebellum makes lesion and injury and destroying the equilibrium, such as medulla blastoma. Medulloblastoma is related to the infant's child. Okay? This is a tumor in the cerebellum of child. Palocerebellar lesion makes gait disturbance. And neocerebellar lesion makes hypotonia, ataxia, and tremor, intention tremor. In the Parkinson's disease, I told you there is rest tremor, but in the cerebellar disease, there is intention tremor. Okay? In the lesion of cerebellum, your patient cannot estimate distance of materials. When you want to touch this, yeah, you estimate what's this distance, how long is this distance, yeah? But in the cerebellar lesion, your patient cannot estimate this distance. This is dysmetria. A disease that's called dysmetria. There is dysmetria. Here is ataxia in the walking. Patient cannot walk normally. And here is medulloblastoma, a tumor of the cerebellum in the child.